Hi, it's great to be here again. I'm going to have my first child in the next 3 months, and I was just wondering if you have any words of wisdom for my husband and myself for the birth process and then, the whole new parenting process or experience.
Well, we would make a decision that we're going to activate everything good feeling that we can think about both the birth process and the glorious years that are to come in the co-creating. And at the same time, you would automatically be de-emphasizing or dematerializing or deactivating anything else. Jerry and Esther were in Texas for a little while, and a dear friend who, like you, is going to give birth soon, stopped by and was chatting with Tracy, Jerry and Esther's daughter, who has just given birth recently. And as Esther stood back and listened, Esther wanted so much for only the things that would make her feel good to be mentioned. Because there's a lot of things you could talk about, and there's no point in talking about anything other than those things that make you feel good. And then the experience is predominantly that. And of course, for you, that is what we are anticipating. So
I read one book before I became pregnant, female gynecologist who talked about, the ideal childbirth would look like this, or, the woman would experience it this way. And I said, I like that, and I stopped reading because I said, that's what I'm going to do, and I don't want to hear anything else. So I just kind of stopped there, and I'm hoping to be able to go into that. But I don't know what to expect.
Here's what we would do. We would acknowledge that everyone on the planet got here like that.
Yeah.
So it's not something that is untested. And it is remarkably successful. In other words, it's a really good process. It's the best process that could be imagined, even from the perspective of non-physical. You can't help but contemplate the birth process without much that you've heard beginning to come into play. And so just relax within it and acknowledge that you can take the best of all of that, and that can be your experience. It is an experience where intentions that have been set into motion by those like you and by you from broader perspective will carry you through this time. In other words, your physical body will know exactly what to do. Your being born child will know exactly what to do. And if there is ever a time when you don't need to get actively involved in what's happening and your utter responsibility is to relax and just allow it to be, this would be it. In other words, when you think about how much knowledge and cellular knowledge and how knowledgeable your body is, there's not one thing that you have to know how to do. That baby would be born if you were unconscious, and some recommend that. But then you'd miss all the fun of it, you see.
Yeah. For the first few months, I was really nervous about becoming a mother, and then someone had asked me something, and I had just said, well, this baby is its own desire for life. It's not really mine. So how do I really teach her, I think it's a girl, how do I really teach her you are your own creator? Like right from now, I start talking to her now. I'm telling her, start attracting your own caregivers. Let's think about schools. Let's think about different things. Like I really want her to be her own creator.
Well, she is her own creator, and she will know that. You should hear the meetings that we're having with her. She is saying to us, how am I going to convince my mother that I am my own creator?
Yeah.
She will remember that when she gets here. And you will forget it for a little while, because she's going to look little, and she's going to be and feel dependent. And it's a tricky thing, because in the beginning they seem dependent while they are ultimately not dependent. And if you get too excited about their dependency, then it is that relationship that begins squelching their individual creativity. And so you have to make that decision almost on a daily basis of how much you are going to assume her inability to do for herself and how much of her life experience you're going to take as your responsibility. Almost from the beginning, you feel responsible for their joy, even, when joy is so natural, you see. And so a very good rule of thumb is, this is a really happy, successful child being, very old energy coming forth. Just stay out of the way as much as you can. In other words,
I have a hard time staying out of my own way. And I know I'm going to be in her way, and I don't want to be. So.
Well, we do not anticipate that you will be in her way, and we do not think that you are in your own way. In other words, we think you're doing a very good job of allowing well-being. We think it is a wonderful thing that you've come to know what you've come to know. And we think the readiness of this being to come forth and play with you has a lot to do with what you have come to know. Just know that in the same way that, as we talked earlier, you could stay in the security of your small town and your known world and never venture out, but never have very much exciting adventure either. Or you can just get out there where the new is and trust that you'll be able to figure it out every step along the way, and you will. And the only rule of thumb that you have to hold is, how does this feel? How does this feel? How does this feel? How does this feel?
Yeah, I've been, for the last month or so, I've just been feeling like, okay, if I'm really transmitting vibrationally, then my ultimate responsibility is really to allow. And if that's all I really have to do to have everything I want, and then to teach her how to have everything she wants in life, just
piece of cake.
Open the floodgates and let it in.
You've said it beautifully. All will go very well for you. Just relax and enjoy every part of the process. The most exhilarating thing about being up close to this new energy is that everything feels possible to this new energy. And there is such a world to discover. Preferences are being chosen and discovered. And you get to, for a little while, vicariously live through that. In other words, so much of a parent's life has been discovered, but to rediscover through the eyes of the little one can be so refreshing, provided you do as you are wanting to do. You let it be their discovery, your observation of their discovery, rather than your wanting to force your discovery on them.
Yeah.
That's the key. The other day, Jerry and Esther were at Harper's Ferry. It's a historical place where there is a confluence of 3 large rivers. And it's an amazingly beautiful place, wide rivers and big bridges that stretch across them. And Jerry and Esther have been there twice before, and they were eagerly anticipating being there again and taking their walk along the river. And as they rode the little shuttle bus down to the little town and began walking toward this long bridge, Esther said to Jerry, I hope we rendezvous with a train, because one time when they were on the bridge, a train came across it too. And it was such fun for Esther to be on this suspension bridge with a train going across it. She loved the feeling of the power of it. She loved the excitement, and she had never stood so close to a train. And sure enough, almost as soon as they began walking, Esther heard the whistle off in the distance, and she said to Jerry, if we run, we can be on the bridge at the same time. And Jerry said, I don't think we have to run. We're close enough that we will be there with the train. And sure enough, they got there just as the train began to move across it. And it took them about 10 minutes to walk across this long bridge. And the train was so long that the entire time that they were walking across the bridge, the train was with them too. Esther was loving it. And it was Mother's Day, and so there were many people out enjoying the splendor of the day, and many families, which looked to be 2 to 3 generations sometimes in these families, were walking across the bridge. And so Esther was watching them, walking with her and walking toward her. And Esther noticed that the children did not seem to be very excited about the train. And Esther wanted them to be excited about the train. And then Esther noticed that their parents wanted them to be excited about the train. She would hear comments like, "Oh, wow, look, a train," from the adults. And she would hear back from the children something like, "Mm-hmm." And Esther said to Jerry, "Why do we need them to be excited about the train? And more importantly, why aren't they? What's wrong with these little children?" And then she remembered that they are a different vibrational generation. Different things are exciting them. And Esther saw, as she tapped into that awareness, that there are so many adults that are just determined that they are going to give their children identical experiences, that they're going to awaken within them things that had been awakened in them. And we say, give it up. Let them be the creator of their own experience and understand that they will be, you see. Now, you more beautifully said all of that to us than we just said it to you. Yes.
Does she have anything she wants to say?
Let's see if we can listen in for just a little bit. Really glad. Can't wait, but don't really mean that. Want to appear eager, but I'm ready to let the process unfold naturally. Timing will be perfect. Thank you for my avenue. I love you eternally. Best time, more than we can imagine. Well-being bigger than you could ever know, and bigger than I will probably remember. I'm wanting to say it to you now. Let's help each other remember. Think about other things in the meantime. Really good.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Nobody knows more clearly than you who you are and what you want. You are so much more than these physical bodies. You set forth a momentum beyond our ability to put it into words before you got here into these physical bodies. It's time for you to begin to allow the well-being that is your legacy and birthright. It's time for you to get into that happy place and let yourself be who you really are. You don't have to worry about traffic accidents. They're not a match to the virtual realities you'll practice. You don't have to worry about not enough money. It's not a match to the well-being that is a vibrational legacy to you. You don't have to worry about illness or sickness. Even if there is some in your body right now, it will not, in 30 days, be a match to who you are. It will not be able to abide in your vibration. It would not matter if you had 100 diseases, all duly labeled and noted with tags all over your body. Here, 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 here. As you practice some virtual reality and you allow the well-being that is natural until it becomes natural to you, sickness cannot be your experience. It just doesn't match. There. You're ready to go, aren't you? It will unfold wonderfully here today. Someone else may ask your question, and that's really a good thing, because when they do, you're more likely in the receiving mode. Because sometimes you can't ask your question and be in the receiving mode at the same time, because to ask your question, you got to activate all those vibrations that make it a question. Sometimes the questions before your questions will lay the perfect basis. Sometimes your question or your contribution will be born right here in this gathering. It is really co-creating at its best. The room is filled with the non-physical parts of you. All that is aware of you. all that you want, even before you assembled here in this magnificent physical gathering, is recognized by your source. It's going to be a very good day.